Gentlemen, welcome back to the Tiege Hanley Starting a Business, Building a Brand vlog. This one, big number 364. My voice, a little bit funky. I think it's the season's changing here in Atlanta. It's fall, and whenever fall happens, I get a little bit raspy and sexier sounding. And so, good news for you is I sound sexy. Bad news for me is my voice sucks. All right, something else that sucked was the Stubble Buddy that I want to talk about today. So I had mentioned in a previous vlog about the Stubble Buddy kind of sucking, right? It was another one of those things. And maybe I'm a bad entrepreneur. Or maybe I just try a lot of shit, throw it against the wall, see what sticks. If it doesn't stick, I am typically very quick to be like, not working. It's time to kill that bad boy. So to refresh your memory, the Stubble Buddy was a little gadget that I came out with that I was really excited about. I'm like, ooh, it's awesome. And basically this thing is to clean up like stubble when you're grooming in the sink, right? Because that is a problem. A lot of dudes are using their beard grooming tool in the bathroom, right? And you're like, you're trimming and all the stubble falls on the sink, falls on the counter, falls on the floor when you're doing your manscaping. And so what do, right? You have to grab a broom. Do you want to straddle like something and try the issue is a real issue. At least it is for somebody who grooms, because there's nothing that really annoys my wife like when she comes over to my side of the sink and it's just covered in like nasty hair and it's just kind of gross. And as dudes, we're not necessarily the cleanest things in the world. At least I'm not. And so when I saw this product, I was like, you know what? This is awesome. And it works really cool, and it's very easy to demonstrate, right? So I'm like, okay, if I make a really cool video, if I, do some ads, come up with a website, I think I could actually make this kind of like, in my head, I was like, oh, it's kind of like the Squatty Potty, right? Thinking that I could create a video that was going to, kind of like maybe grow viral, and, it was going to get, kind of be like just one of those gadgets. Now, when I did this, I did not set up a new like company or corporation. One of the cool things with having a Shopify account is that they allow you to basically have some like sub-sites under your main account. And so I didn't have to set up like a new EIN number or tax ID number or really do anything other than build the website and create this product. And so let me tell you, I'm going to tell you the sales of the Stubble Buddy because why not? So in total on StubbleBuddy.com is about like $55,000. So nothing like no earth-shattering sales. But I'd also been selling it at PeteandPager.com as well as on Amazon. Now, the whole deal, and something I realized pretty quickly with Stubble Buddy, was when I would get a customer, right, they'd come to the site, they'd buy a Stubble Buddy, or maybe they'd buy 2, or maybe they'd buy 3. But there wasn't really anything else to sell them. Because it was like that standalone product, I didn't have any upsells. And so once they came and bought this, it was kind of like, okay, what other products am I going to be able to sell them? Which is another business lesson just for you guys out there. If you are selling something, whether or not it's the Squatty Potty, the Stubble Buddy, a pair of glasses, a wallet, it's a good idea to try to add other products, auxiliary products, or products that are kind of similar, right? So if I came out with a beard grooming tool or a pube trimming tool, that would be cool, or something else like in the beard grooming like world, it might be a good upsell. But I didn't want to work that hard, and I just really wasn't interested. I've looked at creating my own like beard grooming tool and manscaping tool, but it just didn't make sense. They're not cheap. A good one is not cheap or inexpensive to actually manufacture, and the minimum order quantity is pretty high for a lot of these like reputable companies. And so I didn't want to invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars in product when the truth is that there are some other really great products out there. And I love my Brio. I've talked about Brio a bunch of times. And so it was like, I don't want to even get into that business because the upside isn't that great. And so, because I mean, even if it cost me like $25 to land a beard grooming tool, what could I sell it for? 50, 100? But the amount of cash I would have had to tie up in that in order to basically like have quantity, it would have been just a lot of money, and I just wasn't interested in going that far with it. This was literally a product that I was like excited about, thinking, okay, if I can figure out a way to basically figure out that digital advertising game or have some type of creative that I could basically just throw money at And then like, even if this thing made me like $5 a unit, right? If I figured out a mechanism that I didn't have to sell it and I could basically spend money and just utilize that sort of platform, this would have been like a cash cow, right? And then it's just a matter of spending the money, make the money. Spend the money, make the money. The more you spend, the more you make. It would be an inventory issue and I would have to place bigger orders. But that, when I started, was kind of my thought process. Now, something cool that happened with the Stubble Buddy is that Urban Outfitter was carrying it. They saw it somewhere. And the interesting thing, this got a lot of press, a lot of publicity on a lot of these like gadget sites and unboxing sites, which was awesome. Did it really move the needle? Not really. $55,000 worth of total sales in .com, so obviously not that much. And so when I was promoting it, like anything, right? Same story. When you're promoting something, you can sell it. But what happens when you don't? And what I came to realize is if I'm not going to move this, if I'm not going to push people towards this, I might as well not have StubbleBuddy.com and instead just sell it on Amazon and also at PeteandPager.com. Because if you're at PeteandPager.com, I can upsell you a gazillion things, right? And so it was better in my interest to have somebody buy this at Pete and Pager as opposed to the StubbleBuddy.com, because the LTV or lifetime value of that customer was much better at Pete and Pager than the Stubble Buddy. I only had basically one thing to sell them. And so I made the call. It was like, you know what, even though it's a cool website, even though the video of the Stubble Buddy that I got the girls, I hired Christian, I did a really fun video. Even though that was good, I did a few videos actually, some of my best videos in terms of ads. Yeah, it was like, okay, let's just shut down the StubbleBuddy.com and focus on the thing that's moving the needle. And so that's kind of the story. It's still a product, it's still around, but it's not a standalone brand like I was trying and hoping to make it. And so once again, another business lesson is throw shit against the wall, see if something sticks. If it doesn't stick, or it's not producing the return, or it's not worth your time to invest, because once again, your time is your most valuable asset, right? And you've got to decide where you're going to invest it. And so for me, the Stubble Buddy, I tried it. I invested a little bit of time up front. And then I realized, you know what, this isn't worth it. It's not working well enough to keep me basically moving towards, continuing to figure it out. Sort of similar scenario to Enemy. But yeah. So anyway, that's the story. But I also have some amazing business questions that I'd like to get to now, if you don't mind, which brings me to something else. Guys, if you have a business question, down below, start it with business question and ask it. Each week, I try to get to a few of them. This week is no exception. And so now, without any further ado, your question. This first business question just is kind of fun because I've never been called a wealthy man before. Anyway, so it's from our friend H. He says, Alpha, you're a wealthy entrepreneur, and so I want to know, as a well-experienced and wealthy man, what luxuries do you value the most, and what would you advise is the best space to start with or delve into as an entrepreneur? So in terms of what luxuries I afford myself or I really value, I value like convenience, right? In terms of like travel, the two things that when I do, because I don't love to travel, so two things I do to make my traveling less like horrible for me is I will spend the money for first class plane tickets, and I also stay in nice hotels. Like those two things. Like I like nice hotels and I like to travel. I like to be first on and first off of the plane and not have to struggle to find a place for my bag. And so those two things. And let's see, what other luxuries do I like? Just like stuff. Like I like going out to eat at nice restaurants and stuff like that. But the things, it's funny because, the things that I really honestly value the most now, other than like those little material things that I just mentioned, is basically like, I love walking and I love riding a bike and I love like hiking and being outside. And so I really value just being around family and loved ones. And I know that isn't like a sexy answer, but it's honestly, the more I learn and the more I've kind of experienced over my 46, am I 46 or 47? Anyway, 47 years is, it's people, it's the relationships. It's talking to my friends. Money, like the only thing money really does is help you solve problems easier and faster. It doesn't make you happier. Now, I think that whenever somebody says, oh, money doesn't buy happiness, if you're like really like struggling, I think that there is a certain degree of money, if you can like cover your bills and stuff, that will make you a little bit happier. From experience, that's what happened to me. You know, it wasn't that I was unhappy before I had enough money to pay all my bills, but every single day I thought about it, and it occupied the majority of my mental bandwidth is what I'm trying to say. And so when you're living in a constant state of like struggle, that does some serious damage to your mental capacity and basically your overall happiness. And from a very young age, you know, I'd always, every day was thinking about money. You know, everything from when I was younger, I knew like what I could and couldn't buy. I had to start working when I was young because my parents didn't have any money, you know, and then it was just like one like hustle to the next hustle to try and just pay my bills and make enough money. And then when I started my business, the gym, that was a whole nother financial disaster. But $5,000, I've told that story before. When I had $5,000 in my bank account for the first time, that was my FU money. For the first time, something interesting happened. I didn't worry about how I was going to pay my car payment or my bills. And that day, I remember that specific day because it was so pivotal and life-changing for me. At night, I was like, wait a second, I didn't worry about money today. And I was like, that's weird. And that was pretty awesome. The next day, same thing. I didn't worry about money. And that was the point for me where everything kind of sort of grew in terms of like my mental capacity and ability to just be creative kind of flourished and exploded because for the first time in my life, I wasn't stressed out about money. And so I think when you're really broke and really struggling, there is some degree of money. Once you have enough that covers your bills and that you're comfortable, you know, things are great. $100,000 was my number in terms of when I made $100,000 for the first time in my life, I was like, yo, this is insane. This is awesome. But then as things grow, everything else grows, you know, in terms of obligations, in terms of, you know, people that you take care of, people that are relying on you. And so, you know, the difference between having $1 million versus $2 million, it doesn't really, I say it doesn't matter, but in terms of like happiness or joy or, hey, I can buy a new watch or, hey, there's a really cool car, like nothing like that for me. But I know that for some people, it's absolutely, they just like more like material possessions, but that was never the reason why I wanted to be successful. I just wanted to feel valued and validated and feel like I was making a difference. Some people probably say it's wrong or I'm bullshitting, but that's the deal. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. But that brings me to something else, which is another incredible business question that comes from Nico LH. All of your hard work is worth it, Alpha. Now, I'm reading these questions from the vlog where I'm just bawling my face off with the quarter map. That one I can't even watch that damn video without crying like crazy. Anyway, it felt good to get it out, and apparently you guys liked it as well. A few people said, hey, real men don't cry in public, and for that, I say you are, I would say that's wrong. But there were also, I got a lot of people that reached out because of that video saying, you know, thank you so much for being vulnerable and stuff like that. And so, you know, I've always been comfortable showing and expressing emotions. It's not that I'm like an overly emotional dude. I'm not crying all the time, but things affect me. And I think now the reason why I get so damn emotional whenever I talk about stuff like that is that I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful for everything. I'm thankful that things have worked out the way that they kind of have. It's not that I haven't had struggles. It's not that I haven't had failures, but I'm just thankful because I know that when I was back, you know, with the fitness center and everything like going, you know, awry and filing bankruptcy, I didn't know how I would ever make it out of there. And it was the lowest point of my life. And so the fact that I'm happy, that I'm comfortable financially and that I'm doing what I love and I'm not worrying about, you know, buying a cup of coffee, like that means a lot to me and it's not lost on me. And so anyway, the question is about employees. He says, how do you handle employees, specifically underperforming ones? This is such a tough question, but such an amazing one. Because as an entrepreneur, you are going to hopefully have people around you that are going to help you grow. They're going to take some of the things, some of the responsibilities that you don't love doing, you don't want to do, so that you can then do what you do best, which is whatever it is, right? And so in terms of employees, for me, I have always really hired for Pete and Pedro anyway, and for like Alpha M, pretty much most people that are around me that I work with or that help me are friends or family. And so I have a lot of friends and a lot of family that work for me. And this is a good thing, but it also can be potentially a problem, you know, because the obligation I feel to these people is much different than people that I have as like just technical like employees. And so, you know, most of the people that are around me are doing the best job that they can, and they're not underperforming. I've got some amazing people around me. That being said, I do have, you know, Tiege Hanley, which is a different scenario. And, you know, we have a lot of employees. Tiege Hanley is a bigger company, right? And so you are having to deal with employee issues. And there are and have been times when people aren't carrying their weight or aren't doing a great job. And what I can tell you is this: if you can do something to help them, and let me back up for a second. The first step is making sure that you're hiring the best people that you possibly can. But unfortunately, you're not going to know if they're lying to you. Everybody's going to tell you that they're going to be the best and they're going to be able to do the job and they're going to kick ass and they're going to just, you know, be your savior. But the reality is that once they get in there and they actually, you know, roll up their sleeves and we can kind of pull back the curtain and see what they're doing, that doesn't always happen. I am so happy and thrilled and fortunate and just so encouraged. Tiege Hanley has an amazing team right now. Like, everybody on our team is just kicking ass and they're just rock stars in their respective areas. And everybody is collaborating really well, but this hasn't always been the issue. And so we have had to let people go that weren't performing or weren't a fit for our corporate culture. And really it's about trying to identify that as quickly as possible and pull the Band-Aid off. Because when you identify that somebody is underperforming, if you can help them perform better, that's great. But if they're expecting you or you need to micromanage them in order for them to perform up to your level or up to your standards, it's not a fit because they're not doing their job. You're hiring them to help you. You're hiring them to be basically responsible adults and getting the job done and being A performers. But not everybody's an A performer. Something else you have to understand and realize is that, you know, people are never going to care about it or love it like you do. It's your business. It's your baby. And so expecting that is kind of an exercise in futility. They never will. But it doesn't mean that the world doesn't need people, and there aren't a lot of people that would rather come and work for somebody else and do an incredible job. And so really it's about trying to hire the best that you possibly can. But when something's not working or right, identify it as quickly as possible. And really it boils down to data, right? Look at the numbers. Don't just believe what people are telling you. And then it's about helping them either get there where they can be, and if that can't happen, then it needs to be like gone. Like, pull the Band-Aid off as quickly as possible, because the longer they are a part of your business or your company, the longer they're going to have issues and the more potential problems you're going to have. And it's also delaying you hiring somebody that's incredible and amazing and is the right fit. And then, you know, in terms of how you let them go, it's really up to you. And that is something you've just got to be, you know, I don't know, I guess you got to figure that out. Firing somebody is not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not something that anybody likes to do. But something else I would just like to mention is that you should have some type of disciplinary action. Like, one of the things that's super hard is that if you're giving people like positive encouragement, like, great job, you're doing awesome. And then but deep down, you're like, yo, you kind of suck. And you're building up resentment and all these things. And you're making a list in your head of all these things. And you're not letting them know. That's also not cool. Something else I just remembered and realized, Salon Posta. We've let a lot of people go because, you know, it just wasn't the right fit or whatever reason. But yeah, it's about just being honest and ripping that Band-Aid off. Because like I said, the longer they're with you, the longer they could potentially hurt your business long term or you financially as well. And so, what I was saying is document. Don't let it be like you're just like everything's roses and then you just fire them. Like, coming out of left field, that's really hard as an employee to endure. But if they know that there was some type of like employee improvement plan or some like, you know, you're having documentation or you're talking to them and trying to counsel them through their lack of production or performance, you need some paper trail. And it's also just a good idea to do that and have them acknowledge that, hey, we had this talk, we had this. You send them an email after you have a meeting. Never meet with them alone is something else I just like to throw out there. You always want to have somebody else around you so that it's not a he said, she said, because that can potentially be a dangerous scenario or situation like we found out at Salon Posta. But yeah, have some type of disciplinary sort of paper trail so that when you do fire them, it's not out of the blue and you can actually show that you talked to this person about the issues and you tried to actually help them, help themselves. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that is where I'm going to wrap things up. Gentlemen, we love you at Tiege Hanley more than our double monk strap shoes and more than the Stubble Buddy. Good idea, solid, but it just wasn't moving the needle. But I'm telling you, the name, amazing.